if we get this on. You see, if we click there, does it change my value in this keyboard as well? There we go. All right, thank you so much for having me. My name is Jonas, and first of all, I want to ask you: have anyone of you bumped before? Yeah, like bumped out of energy, out of gas. Man, it's the worst feeling ever. When you go out there, you start feeling, you're dizzy. You could maybe get a little bit disorientated, and I guess all of us who's been riding a bit, we've been there, Even me, that I've been racing and been riding for 15 years now, and I still have to be, aware of the risk. And I won races by nutrition and also lost races. And as I was introduced with the Arctic Everesting, it was like a challenge I did last year. And the key was to maintain or ride as many meters of elevation as Mount Everest, which is, I think in feet it's like 27,000 feet. In meters it's 8,850, so it's quite a bit. So nutrition is key. But first of all, who am I? My name is Jonas Orset, and as I guess some of you understand, I'm not originally from Texas. I am from Norway, in the north of Europe.
Norway, Texas?
And I've been riding now for 15 years, like seriously, like elite level and semi-professional, and I've been 4 years on UCI continental level, which is just below, the pros in the Tour de France. And I've been winning a race in Norway that is 540 kilometers, which is about 300 miles. I'm winning that twice, and in that race specifically, you have to make sure you get enough energy and you get enough nutrition. I've been winning Grand Van de Waal Tour. I did set a world record on 10,000 meters of elevation. That means more than Mount Everest. And that was in 10 hours and 56 minutes. So also really important to be on the top of the nutrition there. Actually, during COVID, a lot of people got a little bit crazy during COVID. And in Norway, we closed down almost, all the shops. All the races were put on hold. So some people, they started to challenge themselves by going, long distance rides. And I did too. I started doing a 24-hour ride around this small 8-kilometer loop, which is like 5 miles loop. And after I did 12 hours and really top of my eating and drinking and all that, I felt so good. I was like, man, if I already done 12 hours and I feel so good, why not continue and do a 1,000 kilometer ride, which is, a milestone. 1,000 kilometers is about 700 miles, I think, almost. So I did it. It's 36 hours, more or less straight, just stopping to take a pee. So yeah, I kind of maybe a little bit crazy at times. But now I do more or less the gravel stuff. I did a renegade yesterday. I'm going to do several of these races, the gravel locals in Texas.
Did you do 100?
I did 100.
What was your record?
19 miles per hour, yeah. So Corey and I from Cadence, we were the classic riders. So that was good.
We did the 35.
Oh yeah, good job. It was a cold day out yesterday, so. Okay, I got to do it up eventually. Yeah, now I hopefully get warmer. I did the gravel locals last year and it was 100 and something. Yeah, it's too hot. Yeah, and as told, I'm also a coach for 101% training. It's a Catalan company, Catalan in Spain. I work with them to coach riders of all levels. And I've done this Everesting challenge 5 times, and last year I wanted to expand my limits a little bit and do something special. So I decided to, okay, how can I make this challenge even more, demanding for myself? Because every single challenge, as I said, riding up and down the same climb for many hours is kind of a big task. But I decided to look for something more. And in the north of Norway, there is an island group called Svalbard. I don't know if anyone heard about it. But it's probably the closest you can get to the North Pole, except being on the ice. Yeah, and it's a small mining town there, so there are some roads. And I decided to go there and do the challenge. And it was in April, average 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And going downhill, it was really, really tough with all, it's actually colder there than sometimes in the inland climate because of the humidity of the oceans around. So it was really tough. It took me about 19 hours to finish it. And riding downhill, my bottle froze immediately. I couldn't get any water. I had a banana in like a handlebar bag, and it also froze. I couldn't even get it out. So that was a tricky situation. But I could go inside this old mining house, or what do you call it, and there I could heat up a bit, get some water, drink, eat. So it was actually not so difficult in that event to get enough energy because I could go inside and get my food and my water. So it was easy to plan. I always knew like, okay, I do 3 times up and down this climb, and then I go in after an hour to get some energy and such. So that was kind of an easy way to make sure I always stayed on top because I went inside to do it. But there is like another event that I've done several times in Norway, which is the 300-mile race, Trondheim to Oslo, to different cities. And in that event, there are more like a traditional race, I would say, that you have feed stops. And I did the Unbound last year, and that's 200 miles. And that's kind of the same. You have these feed stops where you can stop, but you have to know exactly what to get there because you don't want to waste too much time. And I think on all different levels and how long you're riding, it's always important to know what you need, what's your energy demands, how much water and nutrition do you need for that time. And for these longer events, I always made a good hydration plan. So I knew exactly what I needed to have and how much I needed to eat and drink every hour. I'm going to give you some of my best tips. But for this race, it's kind of, for me at least, it's kind of a big thing because the first year I did it, 2017, I didn't know what I was expecting. But I really stayed on top of my game the whole time, and I actually attacked the group I was in with about 80 miles to go. Stayed by myself the last 80 miles. It was really mentally tough. I just had to really focus on my pedaling and all that because it was so easy to go over the limit. But I did it, and the year after I was about to do exactly the same thing. I attacked in the same time, but this time these 2 guys, they followed me. So we were 3 people, and it was a lot of things to comprehend because there was people chasing, and it was still like 70 miles to go, and I actually didn't manage to eat sufficiently. When we were in this group, we went a little bit faster than what I would do on my own, so I bumped really bad. I got a Coke eventually, so I kind of came to myself and did finish second, but I lost. I feel like I lost the win because I didn't manage to eat sufficiently there. The year after, I did exactly the same. Actually, attacked that climb with 80 miles to go, and now it was 7 or 8 people following me because now they started to understand this is the important move to follow. And this time I was really on top of like, I'm not going to do the same mistake. I was eating, I was drinking, and that time I was, in the end, everyone else were struggling, and I was full of energy until they unwind or give rebound or revenge. So I was really happy about that. So my plan was first I was checking the route, and that could be different from different kind of events. Like always know what you're going for, and also the organizer. Do they have feed stops? Do they offer water, or do they offer hydration, like energy drinks or food? It's always important to know. And for me, if you do a longer events, I like to add some solid food. I mean, like here we have great set of energy and products, but sometimes it's also good for your stomach to have the things you would eat when you're at home, because that's what your body's most used to. So I think it's good to also add some solid food, like slices of bread. I've been eating oat bread, like slices of oatmeal bread, basically. Which has been working very well for me, combined with energy bars, but also fruits. I mean, it doesn't have to be so special, like bananas or other stuff. Great, also a lot of energy. And then it's important also to remember to drink enough. So there has been studies of how much water you should have, and most studies they would say between 20 to 27 ounces of water, like 0.6 to 0.8 liters of water an hour. If it's really hot, maybe a little bit more, but your body can't really cope with too much water. It can start flushing out your salt, and your hydration balance will be a little bit off. So it's important to remember not to drink too much, but not too little either. So it's kind of a limit there. So for me, it's like a bottle an hour, which is good, a way to remember it.
Does it matter
Yes.
the condition of like the weather?
Yeah, if it's hotter, you will sweat more, so then you have to drink a little bit more. But there is this limit, it's like if you drink more than a liter, I don't know how much that is in ounces exactly, maybe 30 ounces or so. Your body won't be able to, absorb the water and actually just kind of start flushing out. Yeah. So there's better than to add more salts to the water to make sure your body actually can use the water and keep you hydrated. Yes.
Do you take any protein or caffeine on your food category? Kind of, when do you switch to proteins, or when do you mix in proteins?
But when you're in a little bit intensity, your body can't really digest proteins or fat very well. So it's basically carbs that is important for the longer events. A little bit of proteins or fat is fine, but if you get like you go for a protein shake, I don't think you will feel very good afterwards during that ride. But after the ride, for recovery reasons, it's important to add proteins and also some fats in the diet.
About pre-ride, do you take protein before the ride?
Yeah.
Right before, morning though?
Mostly I do oatmeal before a big ride, but I like to add a little bit of eggs or even protein powder just to get a little bit of that as well. I think it's good to have it in your body, but you don't have to do too much, because the carbs is what you usually need to stay to keep your energy level high. But carbs, like depending, you have different kind of carbs. You have complex carbs and like oats and such that are better for you in your body. But when you're during a ride, it may be difficult to really break them down. So you need a little bit easier digestible carbs, more like sugar or maltodextrin, which is typical what they get in energy drinks or energy bars and so on. We don't want that to.
Oh, I just
Yeah.
sorry. How many hours before you ride would you eat the oatmeal?
2 hours.
Sure.
Yeah. Usually 3 to 2 hours, but because of most of the events I start really early, I tend to push it to 2 hours. If it's closer to the start, you might not be able to digest the whole breakfast before you start, which it could work if you start really slowly. If it's a long event and you're not really stressing from the beginning. If you do a little bit more intensity, you may feel like your body isn't really digesting it well. And yeah, I think it's better. 2 hours is a good time. Yeah.
Any supplements or some water or just straight water?
So what I do most of is to have electrolytes, like for example something like this, hydration fuel, that I add into the water. The reason is because this one has carbs, so it helps you to have enough carbs. I don't know if well, here is actually an hydration plan, but later I will also show you like the take-home messages, and then I say 50 to 60 grams of carbs an hour is something that most people would be should aim for. And I don't know exactly how much that would be, and I don't know which kind of measurement you guys would use. Carbs is like European, but grams is European. But about 250 calories of carbohydrates an hour, which is quite high. And to make it easy for myself, I usually do things like I will take 3 kind of products an hour. For example, a banana, an energy bar, and a carbohydrate drink. An hour. Yeah, so it's quite a lot, especially for longer events. If it's like 1 or 2 hours, you don't need that much. If it's more than 2 hours, or 3, and even 4 hours, you kind of need to have that to make sure you're on time. And then also it could be nice to have a few treats, especially for the longer rides. And just have something you look forward to, because if you ride for a long time, you get tired of eating. For this longest event, I did the 300 miler. I usually say it's more like an eating contest than a race, a bike race, because you kind of just have to keep eating, because if you're not, you're gonna vote. So therefore, for me, it's important to have something I also like, some treats. It could be candy, it could be maybe chocolate. It's maybe not the best like quality food, but it's something you can look forward to when you start getting really tired. Or soft drinks like Cokes and such. It could work also. It's not ideal, but I mean, when you start getting tired of food and energy drink, you kind of need to have that little bit extra.
Is caffeine healthy?
Yeah, caffeine is a good thing. It helps, but I wouldn't do too much caffeine during the whole race. I would save a little bit for later, because I think it can be a little bit too stressful if you do it for the whole day. You start in the morning with coffee and caffeine, and then after 2, 3, 4 hours, you kind of so you have to wait a little bit. It can also make you dehydrated a little bit if you get too much caffeine. So save it a little bit for when you need it. That's my advice on that. And the same with
A question of there are those that suffer from various health conditions like type 1 and type 2 diabetes. How would you tell them to eat? Because they always worry about sugar levels. So how do you educate someone that rides and have that issue to deal with?
Oh yeah, it's a good question. I have my thoughts on it. I'm not a medical person, so that would be some people will probably have a better answer for you. But usually, your body, when you're during activity, your body's quite good at keeping, you will absorb and digest the sugar and the energy quite well. So I wouldn't be too worried about it, but if it's, I would ask somebody that's more on the medical side of it, just to make sure you're, Great. Oh, that was just a photo.
Just real quick, could you go over some of the icons you've got?
Yeah,
so we
thank
can
you.
understand that? 'Cause I
Yeah,
think
this
it's
is something I just actually found now, but it's a great way to explain a hydration plan. So I found this on Belgian Waffle Ride, and it's sword, so I don't know exactly the sword endurance, but the point is to show that if you make this kind of plan, like if you want to have 50 to 60 grams or 250 calories an hour of carbs, then you need to know exactly how much would that be, because when you're tired in a longer events, you're not gonna remember how much you ate, and you need to make it easy for yourself. So you know exactly how much you need, and what you need to get also for the feed stops if you have those. So that's why I said for me it's like 3 items an hour, like a banana, for example, or a slice of bread, or a bar. Most of these will have about 30 grams of carbs, like, that could be, I don't know, carbohydrates, but it would be maybe half of what you need, but if you have 2 or 3 of them, you would be about where you should be. And if you do too much, like really sugary stuff, you may feel, your digestive system kind of, you get a little bit nauseous. So the variation is important. But to make this kind of plan is a very good way to make sure you
What
do
are
it.
those pill-shaped items on the very right that some have a number in them, like 45 and 81 and...
This is miles into the events.
Oh, okay, miles into the event. Okay, gotcha.
And that's the total miles in
This would be 1626. So this was about the walk ride event.
Okay,
Kansas. Yeah. So this was actually just to show, not something I made or something. Yeah.
So what would be in your bag? I mean, when you start a ride, what kinds of things would you find in your pouch?
Depending the event, because if it's a proper bike race, I would go usually with energy bars and gels and electrolyte drinks in my bottles. So I would probably have about an energy bar an hour, maybe even a gel an hour, and a bottle of energy drink an hour. Then I would have 3 items. If it was more like a long distance event, like ultra or just with friends for several hours, I would probably rather have a banana or a slice of oats bread or something a little bit more solid. Yeah. Depending the length also. If it's very long, I think it's better to start, as I said, with something more solid and then add more of the bars and gels during the events. If you start with the gels too early, I think a lot of people will suffer with digestive issues.
So you're taking all 3 of those an hour?
Yeah.
Wow.
But you have to train, about it. Your stomach will adapt and kind of have to get used to it. So the first time you go with 3, it's not possible. Then maybe you have to start with 1 or 2 items. And then eventually you can absorb or digest more of the carbs, which would be beneficial when you have a more intense event.
Do Europeans use pickle juice?
Pickle juice, not so much, but I know some people have. So.
We use a lot.
Oh yeah, you like it?
Seems like the trend here is, I don't know yet.
Yeah. So for cramps, I think it's important to get enough electrolytes. So I think pickle juice could work for some people, or tablets. Like I use a lot of salt tablets. Yeah, with magnesium also, and also for this electrolytes drinks, it's usually quite a lot of of course electrolytes with salts and minerals. So that's very important. Thank you for mentioning that. I think, so that those plans that I did was crucial to make the race a success. And as I said, also this could work for different kind of events, not only the 300-mile event, but you kind of have to know what you're going to do. Will there be feed zones? Do you have to carry everything yourself in your pockets or on your bike? Those things are important to know before you get out there. So this is, I think we've been touching all of this. But yeah, I think this is my take-home messages. Make a plan. 200, 280 calories of carbs. I think 280 is a lot. If you're not used to it, it's a lot. But yeah, start to get used to it before the big event. It's very important if you're going to do. 2-hour rides. It's not so important if you have an energy bar or electrolyte drink, I think that will be enough for 2 hours. But if you're gonna ride several hours, it's important so you make sure you don't. Well, yeah.
So tell us your real secret. What do you focus on when you're climbing? Is it
The climbing.
power? Is it cadence?
Oh,
well, what do you focus on
For my,
when you're climbing, when you're really climbing? How do you keep your heart rate in
I
check?
think the main thing is to get into kind of a good rhythm. Like you find a good rhythm where you're not stressing too much, you're not forcing, you just work.
Just your cadence too.
Cadence is a good way to get the right rhythm, relax your shoulders, your arms, so you're not tense like this because you're gonna really suffer if you do many minutes like this. You have to relax. I was in Colombia for a sprint, and then a friend of mine, he was saying like, you should, and he was a good climber, and he said, you should pretend you can play piano when you ride uphill, you know? Because then if you can move your fingers, you're not tense. Because I was sitting and did it like this. So then I realized I can move my fingers, okay, I'm tense. So that's the way to try to relax, get the rhythm, and breathe well with your stomach, not only with your, get it, the air down your stomach.
And so when you're climbing, are you sitting up straighter or are you?
Relaxed. But it's also, of course, I think the physical therapist will explain it. Yeah, sure. Dennis, he will explain it better. But yeah, of course, core strength is important for the longer climbs. So you can, you will actually strain up a bit, even though you're relaxed. So, but yeah, trying to be mostly relaxed when you're riding. Yep.
When you ride in cold weather, do you wear like pants?
Yeah, that was one of the biggest challenges with that Everesting attempt was really cold up there. So I had gloves with heating elements, with batteries. I didn't need them actually because the gloves, they were so good. But yeah, to really make sure you don't have any wind or air coming to your skin. That's important even in weather like yesterday. If you can make sure you don't get the wind in your throat, your face. I usually have a small hat under my helmet, and that helps a lot.
Do you ride with a power meter?
Yeah, I have a power meter when I ride. I don't look too much at it when I ride because I think it's important to ride a little bit on feeling as well. But it's a good thing to just look at it once in a while if you're not so experienced, so you're not overdoing. If it's a long event and you start, going at your threshold, like what do they do an hour, you're gonna suffer. So it's important to be patient. Cycling is a patient game as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think I've been a little bit doing a little bit over time, but
No, you're perfect.
Thank you.
thank you.
Give it up.